Okay. Hello, friends. Oh, forgot. Hold on. So embarrassing. Stay in the closet. So messy. Ugh. Okay. Now everything is fine. All right. So, hello and welcome to another installment of the Isolated Literary Society presents the short works of Neil Gaiman, specifically Fragile Things. Also, this is the last installment of this particular series. I made a decision today. I know exactly what I'm going to read for today. And I've decided that tomorrow I will take the day off because I have a concert streaming on YouTube on Saturday night. And then on Monday, I will be starting the new series. Oh, Pepper's come up. He wants to hear the announcement. I mean, he wants to play with his catnip mouse is really what he wants to do. But I like to imagine that he's interested in my announcements. Anyway, are you guys ready? Are you ready for this announcement? All right, here we go. Drum roll. Pepper's like, whoa, what's going on? He's like, I'm not a lap cat. Why are you hitting your legs? It's not going to happen. Hi. Okay, Pepper can come in the camera for the announcement. All right. The book we will be reading for the next series of Isolated Literary Society is Cowboy Fang's Space Bar and Grill by Stephen Brust. This is one of my favorite books of all time. It is a great book with a weird title and an even weirder cover. This cover has nothing to do with the book. I just want to get out of the way. The title technically has to do with the book, but I have always felt that the overall appearance of the title and the cover seriously mislead people as to what the book is all about. It's not comedy. I'll put it that way. This is a very kind of a silly cover. Also, it makes it look like very high sci-fi, if that's hard sci-fi. Ooh, forgot to turn off the timer that was letting me know I was running late. Hard sci-fi. That's the sci-fi equivalent of high fantasy, right? So it's not comedy, and it's not like pew pew running around in a little laser car on the moon. Yeah, yes, Aaron. It looks very cyberpunk. It's a great book. I love it very much. It is my favorite book that talks about what it is like to be a musician. Yeah, you didn't see that coming from this cover, did you? Although if you look very, very closely, there's a banjo case. So whoever painted this did get at least some hints as to what the book was about. There's like exactly three things on this cover. 4 if you count the bar itself. They're like, no, this person has to have seen at least some of the text of the book. And yet, overall. Anyway, I'm very excited. Stephen Brust gave me personal permission, not to brag or nothing. He follows me on Twitter. Anyway, I asked him, and he said he would be honored and was delighted to have me read the book. So I'm really stoked to read that starting on Monday. Carolyn is not hanging out right here, so I can't send her to go close the blinds. And I forgot, by starting at 6:30, it's right at the time when the sun starts to shine right in this region. So hold on a second. I'm gonna close these blinds. Okay. All right. So we are gonna wrap up a little bit of Fragile Things tonight. Conveniently, I went through the list of stories in the book to see what I'd already read and what I hadn't, because I've just been kind of going through it sort of in random order. And I realized that aside from all the short stories that I specifically decided I was not going to read, because I was like, just not in the mood to read, things like Feeders and Eaters or the trouble or the problem with Susan and some of the stories in this book that are a little more upsetting. The only one that I hadn't read that didn't fall into that category was Sunbird, and I decided it's not my favorite story in there, so I was okay letting Sunbird fly away, as it were. I'm going to read today a couple of the shorter pieces that I like, so it'll just be a bunch of little ones today. Yeah, I hope you guys are stoked for the new book on Monday. My intention was to also have the video page up for Monday and for all of next week before starting the stream today. But like I was scrambling trying to look for like banjo clip art to make the cover image for next week. And I was finding what I was looking for. So, and then the timer went off saying it's 6:25. You should probably go set up your laptop. So, all right. Let's start with, oh, right. No, that's one of the ones I didn't want to read. Let's see. In case you were wondering, the story I just looked up was Other People. I just forgot from the title what it was about. And then I was like, oh, right. That's a very well-written, very brief, just couple of page short story. But yeah, definitely falls in the category of things I don't feel like reading right now. Okay. That's right. All right. Found the one I'm going to read. All right. I said I was prepared, and then I forgot that one. Okay, so let's get into it. For today's reading, we will start with a short story called Pages from a Journal Found in a Shoebox Left in a Greyhound Bus Somewhere Between Tulsa, Oklahoma and Louisville, Kentucky. Monday the 28th. I guess I've been following Scarlett for a long time now. Yesterday, I was in Las Vegas. Walking across the parking lot of a casino, I found a postcard. There was a word written on it in crimson lipstick. One word, remember. On the other side of the postcard was a highway in Montana. I don't remember what it is I meant to remember. I'm on the road now, driving north. Tuesday the 29th. I'm in Montana, or maybe Nebraska. I'm writing this in a motel. There's a wind gusting outside my room, and I drink black motel coffee, just like I'll drink it tomorrow night and the night after that. In a small town diner today, I heard someone say her name. Scarlett's on the road, said the man. He was a traffic cop, and he changed the subject when I got close and listened. He was talking about a head-on collision. The broken glass glittered on the road like diamonds. He called me ma'am, politely. Wednesday the 30th. It's not the work that gets to you so bad, said the woman. It's the way people stare. She was shivering. It was a cold night, and she wasn't dressed for it. I'm looking for Scarlett, I told her. She squeezed my hand with hers. Then she touched my cheek so gently. Keep looking, hun, she said. You'll find her when you're ready. Then she sashayed on down the street. I wasn't in a small town any longer. Maybe I was in St. Louis. How can you tell if you're in St. Louis? I looked for some kind of arch, something linking east and west, but if it was there, I missed it. Later, I crossed a river. Thursday the 31st. There were blueberries growing wild by the side of the road. A red thread was caught in the bushes. I'm scared that I'm looking for something that does not exist anymore. Maybe it never did. I spoke to a woman I used to love today in a cafe in the desert. She's a waitress there a long time ago. I thought I was your destination, she told me. Looks like I was just another stop on the line. I couldn't say anything to make it better. She couldn't hear me. I should have asked if she knew where Scarlett was. Friday the 32nd. I dreamed of Scarlett last night. She was huge and wild, and she was hunting for me. In my dream, I knew what she looked like. When I woke, I was in a pickup truck, parked by the side of the road. There was a man shining a flashlight in the window at me. He called me sir and asked me for ID. I told him who I thought I was and who I was looking for. He just laughed and walked away, shaking his head. He was humming a song I didn't know. I drove the pickup south into the morning. Sometimes I fear this is becoming an obsession. She's walking, I'm driving. Why is she always so far ahead of me? Saturday the 1st. I found a shoebox that I keep things in. In a Jacksonville McDonald's, I ate a quarter pounder with cheese and a chocolate milkshake, and I spread everything I keep in the shoebox out on the table in front of me. The red thread from the blueberry bush, the postcard, a Polaroid photograph I found in some fennel-blown wasteland beside Sunset Boulevard. It shows two girls whispering secrets, their faces blurred. An audio cassette, some golden glitter in a tiny bottle I was given in Washington, D.C., pages I've torn from books and magazines, a casino chip, this journal. When you die, said a dark-haired woman at the next table, they can make you into diamonds now. It's scientific. That's how I want to be remembered. I want to shine. Sunday the 2nd. The paths that ghosts follow are written on the land in old words. Ghosts don't take the interstate. They walk. Is that what I'm following here? Sometimes it seems like I'm looking out through her eyes. Sometimes it feels like she's looking out through mine. I'm in Wilmington, North Carolina. I write this on an empty beach while the sunlight glitters on the sea, and I feel so alone. We make it up as we go along, don't we? Monday the 3rd. I was in Baltimore, standing on a sidewalk in the light fall rain, wondering where I was going. I think I saw Scarlett in a car coming towards me. She was a passenger. I could not see her face, but her hair was red. The woman who drove the car, an elderly pickup truck, was fat and happy, and her hair was long and black. Her skin was dark. I slept that night in the house of a man I did not know. When I woke, he said, "She's in Boston." Who? The one you're looking for. I asked how he knew, but he wouldn't talk to me. After a while, he asked me to leave, and soon enough, I did. I want to go home. If I knew where it was, I would. Instead, I hit the road. Tuesday the 4th. Passing Newark on midday, I could see the tip of New York, already smudged dark by dust in the air, now scumbled into night by a thunderstorm. It could have been the end of the world. I think the world will end in black and white, like an old movie. Hair as black as coal, sugar, skin as white as snow. Maybe as long as we have colors, we can keep going. Lips as red as blood, I keep reminding myself. I made Boston in the early evening. I find myself looking for her in mirrors and reflections. Some days I remember when the white people came to this land, and when the black people stumbled ashore in chains. I remember when the red people walked to this land, when the land was younger. I remember when the land was alone. How can you sell your mother? That was what the first people said when asked to sell the land they walked upon. Wednesday the 5th. She spoke to me last night. I'm certain it was her. I passed a payphone on the street in, I don't know how to pronounce this, Metairie? Metairie? Metairie. I'm going to say Metairie, Louisiana. It rang. I picked up the headset. "Are you okay?" said the voice. "Who is this?" I asked. "Maybe you have a wrong number." "Maybe I do," she said. "But are you okay?" "I don't know," I said. "Know that you are loved," she said, and I knew that it had to be her. I wanted to tell her that I loved her too, but by then she'd already put down the phone. If it was her, she was only there for a moment. Maybe it was a wrong number, but I don't think so. I'm so close now. I buy a postcard from a homeless guy on the sidewalk with a blanket of stuff, and I write remember on it in lipstick, so now I won't ever forget. But the wind comes up and carries it away, and just for now, I guess I'm going to keep on walking. I really like that one for just, very evocative imagery and ideas, without being even remotely clear what it is about. I'm looking at the introduction now to see what he says about that one in the introduction. There. This was written for my friend Tori Amos's Scarlet's Walk tour book several years ago, and it made me extremely happy when it was picked up for a Best of the Year anthology. It's a story inspired very loosely by the music of Scarlet's Walk. I wanted to write something about identity and travel and America, like a tiny companion piece to American Gods, in which everything, including any kind of resolution, hovered just out of reach. I knew it had to be related to a song. I don't know. Something in it, I was like, that has to be. There has to be something. There has to be at least some kind of musical reference going on here. And I was right. All right. Yes. Okay. Next, we are going to read 15 painted cards from a vampire tarot. Oh, good, Michelle. I'm glad you made it. Yeah, I already read Strange Little Girls, which was for another album she did, where he wrote a very, very brief, like sometimes just a few lines, sort of vignette short story for each of the songs on that album. And I think some of them were included, or they all were maybe included in the booklet, but anyway, they'd never been published anywhere until this book. Anyway, or they'd never been published together in a thing that wasn't also a CD. I don't know. Oh, wait, really quickly. I'm going to switch out. I'm going to do another short one, like really short one. Switch out some of the super tiny, teeny short ones. Yes, very mysterious indeed. Okay. My life. Oh, this one's called My Life, by the way. My life? Hell, you don't want to hear about my life. Jesus, my throat is dry. A drink? Well, since you're buying and it's a hot day, sure. Why not? Just a little one. Maybe a beer and a whiskey chaser. It's good to drink on a hot day. Only problem with drinking is it makes me remember. And sometimes I don't want to remember. I mean, my mom, there was a woman. I never knew her as a woman, but I've seen photographs of her before the operation. She said I needed a father, and seeing my own father had dumped her after he regained his eyesight, following a blow on the head from a Burmese cat, which jumped from a penthouse apartment window and fell 30 stories, miraculously striking my father in exactly the right place to restore his sight, and then landing uninjured on the sidewalk, proving it's true what they say about cats always landing on their feet. Claiming he had thought he was marrying her twin sister, who looked completely different, but had, through a miracle of biology, exactly the same voice. Which was why the judge granted the divorce, closed his eyes, and even he couldn't tell them apart. So my father walked out a free man, and on the way from the court he was struck on the head by detritus falling from the sky. There was folks said it was a lavatorial waste from a plane, though chemical examination revealed traces of elements unknown to science, and it said in the papers that the fecal matter contained alien proteins, but then it was hushed up. They took my father's body away for safekeeping. The government gave us a receipt, though. It faded in a week. I guess that is, I guess that it was something in the ink, but that's another story. So then my mom announced I needed a man around the house and it was going to be her. And she worked a deal with that doctor, so when the two of them won the underwater tango contest, he agreed to change her sex for nothing. Growing up, I called her dad and never knew any of this. Nothing else interesting has ever happened to me. Another drink? Well, just to keep you company, maybe. Another beer, and don't forget the whiskey. Hey, make it a double. It isn't that I drink, but it's a hot day, and even when you're not a drinking man. You know, it was just such a day when my wife dissolved. I'd read about the people who blew up. Spontaneous combustion, that's the words. But Mary Lou, that was my wife's name. We met the day she came out of her coma, 70 years asleep, and hadn't aged a day. It's scary what ball lightning can do. And all the people on that submarine, like Mary Lou, they were all frozen time. And after we were wed, she'd visit them, sit by their bedsides, watch them while they slept. I drove a truck back then. And life was good. She coped well with the missing 7 decades, and me. I like to think that if the dishwasher had not been haunted, well, possessed, I guess would be more accurate, she'd still be here today. It preyed upon her mind, and the only exorcist that we could get turned out to be a short person from Utrecht, and actually not a priest at all. For all he had a candle, bell, and book. And by coincidence, the very day my wife, all haunted by the dishwasher, Delaquest, went liquid in our bed, my truck was stole. That was when I left the States to travel around the world. And life's been dull as ditchwater since then. Except, but no, my mind is going blank. My memory's been swallowed by the heat. Another drink? Well, sure. Sorry, I kind of forgot that one has a couple of mildly objectionable terms, which I flubbed, but I think you know what the actual word was that I said a short person. And the whole thing with his mother. Anyway, it's a cute story though, otherwise. All right, now we're going to do 15 painted cards from a vampire tarot. But first, we're going to put some chapstick on.
Some pepper cam. How was the pepper cam?
Oh yeah, well, we'll do a quick pepper update. He's just hanging out with his mouse.
Yep.
Just sitting there, enjoying his company.
I should give this thrown up dirt over here. Or something.
I know, I saw that. I'm like, oh, I'll clean it up after the stream. Why are you eating dirt, you weirdo? We feed you so much food. Really ought to give this mouse a name. Came up with a really good one. Any suggestions as to what to name Pepper's catnip mouse? I welcome all comers. Okay, 15 painted cards from a vampire tarot. The Fool. What do you want? The young man had come to the graveyard every night for a month now. He had watched the moon paint the cold granite and the fresh marble and old moss-covered stones and statues in its cold light. He had started at shadows and at owls. He had watched courting couples and drunks and teenagers taking nervous shortcuts, all the people who come through the graveyard at night. He slept in the day. Nobody cared. He stood alone in the night and shivered in the cold. It came to him then that he was standing on the edge of a precipice. The voice came from the night all around him, in his head and out of it. What do you want? It repeated. He wondered if he dared to turn and look, realized he did not. Well, you come here every night, to a place where the living are not welcome. I have seen you. Why? I wanted to meet you, he said without looking around. I want to live forever. His voice cracked as he said it. He had stepped over the precipice. There was no going back. In his imagination, he could already feel the prick of needle-sharp fangs in his neck, a sharp prelude to eternal life. The sound began. It was low and sad, like the rushing of an underground river. It took him several long seconds to recognize it as laughter. This is not life, said the voice. It said nothing more, and after a while the young man knew he was alone in the graveyard. The Magician. They asked Saint Germain's manservant if his master was truly 1,000 years old, as it was rumored he had claimed. How would I know? The man replied. I have only been in the master's employ for 300 years. The priestess. Her skin was pale, and her eyes were dark, and her hair was dyed black. She went on a daytime talk show and proclaimed herself a vampire queen. She showed the cameras her dentally crafted fangs and brought on ex-lovers who, in various stages of embarrassment, admitted that she had drawn their blood and that she drank it. You can be seen in the mirror, though? Asked the talk show hostess. She was the richest woman in America and had got that way by bringing the freaks and the hurt and the lost out in front of her cameras and showing their pain to the world. The studio audience laughed. The woman seemed slightly affronted. Yes, contrary to what people may think, vampires can be seen in mirrors and on television cameras. Well, that's the one thing you finally got right, honey, said the hostess of the daytime talk show, but she put her hand over her microphone as she said it, and it was never broadcast. The Pope. This is my body, he said, 2,000 years ago. This is my blood. It was the only religion that delivered exactly what it promised, life eternal for its adherents. There are some of us alive today who remember him, and some of us claim that he was a messiah, and some think he was just a man with very special powers, but that misses the point. Whatever he was, he changed the world. The Lovers. After she was dead, she began to come to him in the night. He grew pale, and there were deep circles under his eyes. At first they thought he was mourning her, and then, one night, he was gone. It was hard for them to obtain permission to disinter her, but they got it. They hauled up the coffin, and they unscrewed the lid. Then they prized what they found out of the box. There were 6 inches of water in the bottom. The iron had colored it a deep orangish red. There were 2 bodies in the coffin, hers, of course, and his. He was more decayed than she was. Later, someone wondered aloud how both of them had fitted in a coffin built for one, especially given her condition, he said, for she was very obviously very pregnant. This caused some confusion, for she had not been noticeably pregnant when she was buried. Still later, they dug her up for one last time, at the request of the church authorities, who had heard rumors of what had been found in the grave. Her stomach was flat. The local doctor told them all that it had just been gas and bloating as the stomach swelled. The townsfolk nodded, almost as if they believed him. The Chariot. It was genetic engineering at its finest. They created a breed of human to sail the stars. They needed to be possessed of impossibly long lifespans, for the distances between the stars were vast, space was limited, and their food supplies needed to be compact. They needed to be able to process local sustenance and to colonize the worlds they found with their own kind. The homeworld wished the colonists well and sent them on their way. They removed all traces of their location from the ship's computers first, however, to be on the safe side. The Wheel of Fortune. What did you do with the doctor? She asked and laughed. I thought the doctor came in here 10 minutes ago. I'm sorry, I said. I was hungry. And we both laughed. I'll go find her for you, she said. I sat in the doctor's office, picking my teeth. After a while, the assistant came back. I'm sorry, she said. The doctor must have stepped out for a while. Can I make an appointment for you for next week? I shook my head. I'll call, I said. But, for the first time that day, I was lying. Justice. It is not human, said the magistrate, and it does not deserve the trial of a human thing. Ah, said the advocate, but we cannot execute it without a trial. There are the precedents. A pig that had eaten a child who had fallen into its sty. It was found guilty and hanged. A swarm of bees found guilty of stinging an old man to death was burned by the public hangman. We owe the hellish creature no less. The evidence against the baby was incontestable. It amounted to this. A woman had brought the baby from the country. She said it was hers and that her husband was dead. She lodged at the house of a coachmaker and his wife. The old coachmaker complained of melancholia and lassitude, and was, with his wife and their lodger, found dead by their servant. The baby was alive in its cradle, pale and wide-eyed, and there was blood on its face and lips. The jury found the little thing guilty beyond all doubt and condemned it to death. The executioner was the town butcher. In the sight of all the town, he cut the babe in two and flung the pieces onto the fire. His own baby had died earlier that same week. Infant mortality in those days was a hard thing, but common. The butcher's wife had been broken-hearted. She had already left the town to see her sister in the city, and within the week, the butcher joined her. The three of them, butcher, wife, and babe, made the prettiest family you ever did see. Temperance. She said she was a vampire. One thing I knew already, the woman was a liar. You could see it in her eyes. Black as coals they were. But she never quite looked at you, staring at invisibles over your shoulder, behind you, above you, 2 inches in front of your face. What does it taste like? I asked her. This was in the parking lot behind the bar. She worked the graveyard shift in the bar, mixed the finest drinks, but never drank anything herself. V8 juice, she said. Not the low-sodium kind, but the original. Or a salty gazpacho. What's gazpacho? A sort of vegetable soup. You're shitting me. No. So you drink blood just like I drink V8? Not exactly, she said. If you get sick of drinking V8, you can drink something else. Yeah, I said. Actually, I don't like V8 much. See, she said. In China, it's not blood we drink, it's spinal fluid. What does that taste like? Nothing much. Clear broth. You've tried it? I know people. I tried to figure out if I could see her reflection in the wing mirror of the truck we were leaning against, but it was dark, and I couldn't tell. The devil. This is his portrait. Look at his flat yellow teeth, his ruddy face. He has horns, and he carries a foot-long wooden stake in one hand and his wooden mallet in the other. Of course, there is no such thing as the devil. The tower. The tower's built of spit and spite, without a sound, without a sight. The biter bit, the bitter bite. It's better to be out at night. The star. The older, richer ones follow the winter, taking the long nights where they find them. Still, they prefer the northern hemisphere to the south. You see that star, they say, pointing to one of the stars in the constellation of Draco, the dragon. We came from there. One day we shall return. The younger ones sneer and jeer and laugh at this. Still, as the years become centuries, they find themselves becoming homesick for a place they have never been, and they find the northern climes reassuring, as long as Draco twins about the greater and lesser bears up near chill Polaris. The sun. Imagine, she said, that there was something in the sky that was going to hurt you, perhaps even kill you. A huge eagle or something. Imagine that if you went out in the daylight, the eagle would get you. Well, she said, that's how it is for us, only it's not a bird. It's bright, beautiful, dangerous daylight, and I haven't seen it now in 100 years. Judgment. It's a way of talking about lust without talking about lust, he told them. It's a way of talking about sex and fear of sex and death and fear of death. And what else is there to talk about? The world. You know the saddest thing, she said, the saddest thing is that we're you. I said nothing. In your fantasies, she said, my people are just like you, only better. We don't die or age or suffer from pain or cold or thirst. We're snappier dressers. We possess the wisdom of the ages. And if we crave blood, well, it's no more than the way you people crave food or affection or sunlight. And besides, it gets us out of the house. Crypt, coffin, whatever. And the truth is? I asked her. We're you, she said. We're you with all your fuck-ups and all the things that make you human, all your fears and lonelinesses and confusion. None of that gets better. But we're colder than you are, deader. I miss daylight and food and knowing how it feels to touch someone and care. I remember life and meeting people as people and not just as things to feed on or control. And I remember what it was to feel something, anything, happy or sad or anything. And then she stopped. Are you crying? I asked. We don't cry, she told me. Like I said, the woman was a liar. All right. That is 15 painted cards in a vampire tarot. So if I'm recalling correctly, the explanation of that one in the introduction is just that I think it was actually based on a tarot. Now I want to look it up. Oh, these are 7 stories still. There are 7 stories still to go in the major arcana. And I've promised artist Rick Barry that I'll write them one day so he can paint them. So he doesn't actually say anything about why he wrote these ones. Just because vampires and tarot cards are cool, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, they sound like writing prompts.
Right, yeah.
Like stuff that I wrote in creative writing classes. In like, teacher gives you a prompt, you have like 10 minutes to write. And you're like, yeah.
Just a little brief idea based on,
yeah,
this tarot card.
Yeah.
I would be interested to hear from someone who understands the tarot a little better, how they think each of the stories matches up with the cards. Some of them are obvious, like the star and the sun, and some of them less so. So, all right, let's see. I'm just shy of 40 minutes, so perfect. I'm going to do a couple more of the itty-bitty ones. The Hidden Chamber. I haven't read that one yet. The Hidden Chamber. Do not fear the ghosts in this house. They are the least of your worries. Personally, I find the noises they make reassuring. The creaks and footsteps in the night. Their little tricks of hiding things or moving them. I find endearing, not upsetting. It makes the place feel so much more like home. Inhabited. Apart from ghosts, nothing lives here for long. No cats, no mice, no flies, no dreams, no bats. 2 days ago I saw a butterfly, a monarch, I believe, which danced from room to room and perched on walls and waited near to me. There are no flowers in this empty place, and scared that the butterfly would starve, I forced a window wide, cupping my 2 hands around her fluttering self, feeling her wings kiss my palms so gentle, and put her out and watched her fly away. I've little patience with the seasons here, but your arrival eased this winter's chill. Please, wander around. Explore it all you wish. I've broken with tradition on some points. If there is one locked room here, you'll never know. You'll not find in the cellar's fireplace old bones or hair. You'll find no blood. Regard, just tools, a washing machine, a dryer, a water heater, and a chain of keys. Nothing that can alarm you, nothing dark. I may be grim, perhaps, but only just as grim as any man who's suffered such affairs. Misfortune, carelessness, or pain, what matters is the loss. You'll see the heartbreak linger in my eyes and dream of making me forget what came before you walked into the hallway of this house, bringing a little summer in your glance and with your smile. While you are here, of course, you will hear the ghosts, always a room away, and you may wake beside me in the night, knowing there's a space without a door, knowing there's a place that's locked but isn't there, hearing them scuffle, echo, thump, and pound. If you are wise, you'll run into the night, fluttering away into the cold, wearing perhaps the laciest of shifts. The lane's hard flints will cut your feet all bloody as you run. So, if I wished, I could just follow you, tasting the blood and oceans of your tears. I'll wait instead, here in my private place, and soon I'll put a candle in the window, love, to light your way back home. The world flutters like insects. I think this is how I shall remember you. My head between the white swell of your breasts, listening to the chambers of your heart. I love how often reading these all together, even though, of course, these were all written at different times. I think, according to the copyright note, they were all written between I think it's a span of 95 and 2004 or something like that. Maybe not quite that wide a span. I'm trying to figure out, where does it list the original publishing of all the stories? Oh, there we go. Yeah, 2005, 2006. Oh, actually, one of them is actually from 1990. So, but most of them are from the mid-late 90s and early 2000s. But, they're written over a span of time. But reading them all together, you can see so many ideas come back. Like in that story, he just mentions the flints in the lane, which reminded me of the flints of Memory Lane. And then, there was something in the Vampire Tarot one that reminded me of something else too. Now I've forgotten. But there's just a lot of, a turn of phrase or a sort of a reference to something that he'll make more than once. Anyway, I always love that when you notice that in someone's work. Not an intentional reference, not like something, a writer or a filmmaker always puts in their movies as a little Easter egg to look for, but just concepts that come back. Anyway,
yeah,
just little things. Anyway, okay, let's do Going Wodwo. And I believe he mentions in the introduction that a Wodwo, or Wodwos, was a wild man of the woods. And this was written for an anthology by Terry Wendling and Ellen Detlow.
Interesting.
Cool. I like them. Okay, Going Wodwo. Shedding my shirt, my book, my coat, my life, leaving them empty husks and fallen leaves, going in search of food and for a spring of sweet water. I'll find a tree as wide as 10 fat men, clear water rilling over its gray roots. Berries I'll find, and crab apples and nuts, and call it home. I'll tell the wind my name, and no one else. True madness takes or leaves us in the wood halfway through all our lives. My skin will be my face now. I must be nuts. Since left with shoes and house, my guts are cramped. I'll stumble through the green back to my roots, and leaves and thorns and buds, and shiver. I'll leave the way of words to walk the wood. I'll be the forest's man and greet the sun, and feel the silence blossom on my tongue like language. All right, that leaves us with just one story left, which I purposely saved to be the last thing. In the end, the Lord gave mankind the world. All the world was man's, save for one garden. This is my garden, said the Lord, and here you shall not enter. There was a man and a woman who came to the garden, and their names were Earth and Breath. They had with them a small fruit which the man carried, and when they arrived at the gate to the garden, the man gave the fruit to the woman, and the woman gave the fruit to the serpent with the flaming sword who guarded the eastern gate. And the serpent took the fruit and placed it upon a tree in the center of the garden. Then Earth and Breath knew their clothedness, and removed their garments one by one until they were naked. And when the Lord walked through the garden, he saw the man and the woman who no longer knew good from evil, but were satisfied, and he saw it was good. Then the Lord opened the gates and gave mankind the garden, and the serpent raised up, and it walked away proudly on 4 strong legs, and where it went none but the Lord can say. And after that there was nothing but silence in the garden, save for the occasional sound of the man taking away its name from another animal. That's a fun one. Anyway, that concludes our series of short works by Neil Gaiman. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you enjoyed all of this, I really highly recommend that you get your hands on a copy of this book, particularly the audiobook read by Neil Gaiman, because there's a bunch of great stories in here I didn't read. And not all of them were because they had something sort of upsetting in them. Some of them I just didn't want to read for other reasons. But even the ones with something upsetting in them, I think when you can kind of pick a time when you're down for something a little bit on the kind of weird or unsettling side and you want to sit down and listen to them, I think if you enjoyed the ones I've read, you'll enjoy the rest of them probably as well. So please purchase this book. Mm-hmm. Preferably from your local independent bookseller. Call your local bookseller and see if they're doing, curbside pickup or mail orders or whatever, because they need your support. But if you only way you can do it is to get it online, that's good too. So
there are options, alternatives to Amazon.
Yes.
Like independent booksellers do sell online.
Yes, right. I kind of meant like getting an ebook or something, but yes.
Yeah.
And you can, a lot of independent booksellers have online portals, although a lot of them don't have all of their stock online because that's hard.
Yeah.
When you're also selling in a store. So
yeah,
that's why I was saying you should call them. But
right.
Anyway, you can also check your local library. They probably have an app. Most of them do now. You probably can get an ebook or an audiobook version of that story from your local library. So check them out. Find out what the options are.
Most likely.
Libraries are great. Okay, so on that note, yes, housekeeping. So I'm going to take tomorrow off, as I said, and then Saturday I will be doing a live stream concert on this channel, 5 p.m. Pacific. The video page is already up in the upcoming streams on the channel, so go check that out. Click set reminder. It'll remind you to come and listen. I've been working on some new stuff to do this weekend, and I'm excited. And then we'll be back on Monday reading Cowboy Fang Space Bar and Grill. Woo. I think you guys are going to like it. It's a good book. That's about it. Oh, yes. And if you enjoyed these short stories and me reading them, please go to my Bandcamp. Link is down below. I have recently released a short story audio collection. 3 short stories that I wrote, read by me and my friends with original music by some of my friends as well. And you can stream that on my Bandcamp for free. Or you can buy it if you want to. That's also cool. But if you don't have any money, it's okay. Please just stream it and enjoy it. That is it. Here's Pepper wants to say goodbye. Pepper, say goodbye to the nice people. He's just squinting like, what?
He's smiling at you.
Yeah. Okay. Say bye-bye.
His game face.
Bye-bye. Yeah. He's getting some good kitty time. Everybody's got to get some good. Get some close up. Oh, look at that cutie. Look how cute. He's just so dapper with his little kerchief.
Yeah.
The best. All right. Enough of that. On that note, I'll say goodbye. I hope you guys have lovely weekends. Savvy, even if your library is, the physical library is closed, go to their website because they should still be able to provide, ebooks and audiobooks. I too wish that I could go to my actual library because I don't like reading ebooks. I don't like reading things on screens. But it's certainly better than not reading anything at all, in my opinion. So, still highly recommend checking out your local library system. And on that note, good night.
Good night. Good night.